Dapper Don Podcast. Dapper Don Podcast. This is your boy Dapper Don Dez.
Dapper Don Dez. You're tuned into the Dapper Don Podcast, the podcast that looks into hip hop and all of its moving parts. We're going to discuss today ASAP Ferg and how he began to grow apart from his once fist-tight crew. Also, Killer Mike making a killing at the bank. Finally, Scarface, he needs a kidney, and we'll discuss all how that started. First, if you would like to stay up to date with all the hip-hop news and to be sure to follow me on Instagram at Dapper Don Dez. That's on Instagram at DAPPERDON_DES. So that's Dapper Don at Dapper Don_Dez. Of course, the YouTube channel is Dapper Don Dez. And wherever you get your podcast at, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you go, I'm there. And of course, let's get into the first one. Let's just dive right into it. ASAP Ferg. Not even necessarily ASAP Ferg. So, in the words of Drizzy Drake, he says, dudes get caught up in fashion and women, and I'm the only one still known for the music. When I heard this, first thing that came to mind was ASAP Rocky, ironically, so we'll be talking about this. He said this years ago. Is this the inner thoughts of the prize artist of a rap crew that begins to be the driving force of division? Meaning, does this cause people to grow apart? Does this cause people to say that I'm the only one headed in this direction? These people are dead weight. So I wanted to break down 3 recent scenarios of ones that was this way, that seem to not be this way, and what I think are the leading factors. So first and foremost, we diving straight in with ASAP Ferg. Now, Ferg was allegedly kicked out of ASAP Rocky. Not ASAP, out of ASAP Mob. ASAP was started by a guy named ASAP Yams. I believe he's like a young Puerto Rican kid that overdosed. And the first thing I thought to give you the overview was that ASAP Bari took to the internet, or ASAP Ills took to the internet and said, hey, he's burnt out, Mr. Anthem isn't right, can't get right, his songs is trash, blase, blase. That also plays, that psychological, their way of thinking also plays into why there seems to be a rift. But first thing that I came about was ASAP Rocky being more involved in external things such as Fenty Beauty, that's Rihanna's stuff, than he is in actual growth of ASAP and his own music career, truth be told. We seen him being visible with Rihanna right now, which there's rumors that they're dating. I believe they're not like far apart in age. I think they're a few months apart. I mean, they look like a good couple, don't get me wrong. And we always knew ASAP Rocky was into external, different stuff, man. He was more into things that necessarily I wouldn't have rocked with. But he liked fashion and stuff. He did an interview on Vogue. He was in her skincare campaign. It was a commercial. You know, your regular, commercial. But it had that and Lil Nas X. You forgot about him already, huh? The pandemic got him out of here. At least the pandemic gave him some time to come up with another record. It definitely gave him some more time to come up with another record, or to figure out what his game plan was going to be. It's not like getting to sit down. That's a rarity, that you make a record that big and you get to just sit down and figure out what you're going to do next. Don't let everybody get allowed that. Even in staying on ASAP Rocky, so we stand on ASAP Rocky, even with the interview with Rihanna, he also had where he said a while back where he would rather ASAP Rocky, I'm speaking on ASAP Rocky and why I believe this affects Ferg. ASAP Rocky even said that he would rather speak on fashion and work in like fashion like Kanye West or Pharrell than actually speak on social issues that affect, African Americans in the community, which is a far reach from what he says in lyrics like, I thought I'd die in prison. Like, that's a crazy way to look at somebody's mindset, a look into a person's mind, a look into the way that they see the world. But when you actually talk to the person, they'll rather talk about fashion. That seems so far from what we're used to, right? So far from what we consider to be somebody who grew up in Harlem, is watching Harlem be changed, grew up around NYPD, who lost a brother to violence. You would think like we would hear more about this. But like I said, ASAP Rocky prefer to prefer to speak more on social issues. The reason why I think that affects ASAP Ferg really isn't that kind of dude. He's not a political dude either. He's not exactly Kaepernick, but he doesn't really make those kind of statements. And it does seem like he believes in being more involved within the culture of hip hop. He seems to, when it comes to his fashion choice, you see he tends to refer back to the early 2000s a lot like myself. Mind you, me and Ferg probably the same age. If you was in your early 30s, he got the platinum chain with the do-rag and the baggy jackets. Like, he's clearly living out his dreams. You know, because when we was younger, we used to beg for clothes. Now that I look at it, I was like, man, I could afford so much of that right now, and it's not even in style. He don't care nothing about all that. He probably got a closet full of throwbacks. But, you know, Rocky isn't so much as involved in the culture. He always seemed to want to have moved outside of the culture, move outside of, well, I don't want to say it's culture because that could also be culture. You could say Dapper Dan went outside of the culture, but, you know, he was also a Harlem cat, but he found a way to make it hip-hop and make it his and make it his own. Maybe that's what Rocky feels like he wants to do, but that got lost in the message when he said what he said. And that bleeds into the my other point is that ASAP Rocky wasn't there for this Floor Seats 2, ASAP Ferg's new album, the way that ASAP Ferg was there for Rocky's incarceration. When Rocky got locked up in Switzerland, Mr. I travel the world and I want to go to designer and do all of this other stuff, guess what? When you was in Switzerland, in those big designer houses' backyards, none of them came out to come see you. Ferg was out there. The Black Caucus in New York was out there. Hip-hop was out there. Trump was out there. Like, you have to take all of this stuff into consideration. You know, and it seems like you did that. You did that much. Then you came back into the culture, and you just being you. I acknowledge that, but also you got to realize that you don't seem to be also focused on music. So ASAP Rocky seems to also have been distant at this point, which is funny that ASAP Rocky, I would have kicked out Rocky before I kicked out Ferg. First thing I thought about, I would have been kicked Rocky out. I'm like, bro, you're not focused. But there's more. Ferg saying he feel that it's jealousy that caused the breakup. That's pretty much what Big ASAP. I didn't even tell you what Big ASAP was about. So after he was kicked out on Twitter by some founding members of ASAP, who I'm sure don't profit anything off of his songs. I'm sure they don't have any profit, any actual benefit from Ferg's success. They came out and said he's not an ASAP anymore. He's burnt out, blase. He came on Hot 97, which was a New York radio station. He said, yeah, it is petty. Yeah, that was true. That's a real tweet, and that he would explain it on Big ASAP. A song featuring Monica, the singer Monica. This is another thing when I say early 2000s. Like, this kid he's clearly like, he grew up. That's the one thing I always like about Ferg. Ferg seems to be able to live in like this nostalgic time period for himself. The kind of clothes he wears, the kind of flows he uses, he's just like a time capsule of the early 2000s. And that was really the best time for hip-hop, let me tell it. You had a good mixture of everybody. You had Snoop re-evolving himself. You still had Rockefeller. You had, Rough Riders. You had, T.I. was coming out. You had 50. Like, you had so Eminem. Literally every parts of the country had somebody that was a mega star to represent them. And it was a really good and balanced time, let me tell it. But that was also my teen years. Your teen years is rarely very, very important. It's very important your teen years, these are. But anyway, Ferg has not only been a member of ASAP Mob for a while, although not the founding members. He has been a member, but he's been the leading hit maker. He has been the leading hit maker in what can arguably be the most dominant male rap group. Matter of fact, rap group from New York City. He's been the leading hit maker because what hit record outside of Effing Problems does ASAP Rocky have? Even though we keep seeing him look at ASAP Rocky like he's ahead of Ferg. How does he keep that? Why does Ferg always seem like it's the second place? That's kind of crazy. Maybe there's a little bit there too. Maybe he's tired of being up under Rocky, a leader who's not leading. He's saying, I got to hit records. I got the songs. Also, when you look at A$AP Bari and A$AP Ills, both being founding members, they have a real New York sound. Now, they're in the fashion. They was cool. They was feeling a lot of his eccentric stuff, but they have more of an NY flow. They're more traditional to the sound. And I think when you're afraid to sound different because people may not like it, you have extensively ruin your chances of being somebody that's going to be a breakout and reasonable voice and a reasonable star. I don't see that person happen. And they're probably older. So I'm imagining if he was in the late 80s, if he was born late 80s, these dudes probably early 80s. They probably got 5, 6, 7 years on them. Because mind you, Yams was pretty young too, though. So I can't really say that for sure. I can't say how old they are or are not, but they were the founding members, and they're saying that basically he's out. Them wanting to have a New York sound probably plays into it. Nicki being more helpful to Ferg than anybody else in the group also may play a part where he's like, well, you know what, forget you guys, because there's no I lose nothing by losing you guys. Everybody who I need is outside of the crew. I lose nothing with you. Even though he says he's not changing his name, I lose nothing with you. You also have to count in the fact that A$AP Yams passed away. If the founder has passed away, what can you possibly say to a group of people with no leader? Who's gonna take charge? And the person who you would look at and say, okay, this is the guy that should be in charge. This is the guy that broke the whole crew. He's off in La La Land. So you're not gonna really take too much into that either, man. You're not going to take a lot into that. You're not going to take a lot into what anybody has to say, even though A$AP Nas was like, nah, that's corny. So it seems to be a divide among them. It's like there's the younger ones who follow Ferg. They're like, no, I'm with Ferg. And the older ones are feeling a division. Maybe he's not looking to do features for them. Maybe he's not looking to really be all, in the mix with them and super, super cool with them like that. And it's like, all right, well, you know what? I'm going to try to take whatever it is I do have from you, and this is how a sucker moves. I'm not saying these two guys are suckers. They may have a reason for how they feel. They may have a good reason, but I'm going to tell you a sucker move people do. When you come up and somebody adds a little value into your life or adds some value at a certain point in your life, and they feel like you haven't reciprocated the same extensive help they interpret they gave you, they try to take back that value in any way possible. Okay, I made you A$AP, that leveled you up. Ferg can then say, I stayed A$AP. That should have leveled you up. Why not? Because that takes me to my final point about Ferg. He could be argued the hottest New York male rapper. The hottest New York male rapper. You can argue this of his time. More than French, more than Bobby. Fabio's fire. Rest in peace, Pop Smoke. They're good. But I don't see them topping that. In top 5 East Coast male rappers, period. I mean, even Davies, shout out Davies, but Ferg. And we talking this decade, he has more radio records than Hove got. Jay ain't even put out more radio records than Ferg. I'm not a big fan of Ferg, but I gotta give a man credit when a man's credit is due. But that takes me to another person who also kind of fits in that vein, and that's K-Dot. So K-Dot was allegedly said that he was going to leave TDE, Top Dog Entertainment, to start his own label. Now, this rumor started on Reddit. It was not from any official member. No official member actually said anything, but because it was just a big deal and just a big statement. It's one of those stories that just grew legs because we're kind of getting robbed of a year, right? We're getting robbed of a year. We were supposed to have a Mink album by now. We were supposed to have a Drake album by now. We might have one. I don't think he dropped, right? I wouldn't know. I don't listen. But I'm sure, I think he gave you something. He gave you something, but he didn't give an album. You didn't get a Kendrick album. You're not getting a Cole album. People just like scratching 2020 off the list. Like, we just got so many years to spare. And as far as the music is go, I just think everybody's literally keeping it in the house. So anytime we get any news about these guys, we are head over heels about it. Even if it's rumors of them leaving TDE, they say it's gonna go start PG Lang. PG Lang is supposed to be a multimedia powerhouse. It's supposed to be a film company, a recording industry. I said a recording industry, recording record label. I forget what all it was supposed to be, but you know, he had some artists that he's supposed to be working with. And ultimately, this is the normal level up for any artist. Any artist is going to eventually start to grow into somebody who's going to have other artists he wants to sign and bring into the game. This is no different than Drake and OVO, Cole and J. Cole and Dreamville, or Meek Mills and the Chasers. I think I also talked about a story. I talked about a story of, Meek supposedly was supposed to sign Roddy Ricch. He also got another dude named Young Blue from Alabama. He pretty fire. He came up with Boosie, but now it looked like he's really trying to move up and he's gonna mess with Meek. But this is a normal thing. I think this was just about K-Dot signing some artists and looking to put on his boss hat, his executive hat, like all his peers are doing. That's nothing new. And this is nothing different. This rumor was also crazy because K-Dot never said it. Matter of fact, K-Dot came out and spoke out against it and said, why isn't Top Dawg being more vocal and standing up for him? And I think that kind of allows where it's an air of mystery. That's maybe what it was. Maybe that's like literally what it was, where people felt like, okay, you're not going to tell me anything, he must be gone. Because Top would have said something by now. Punch would have said something by now, so he must be gone. He must not be with you guys anymore, so you don't care what he's doing. Maybe that's where it came from. Maybe that's just the frustration of his fans wanting the album. I think they said he hasn't dropped an album in 3 years. These years go by so quick. I haven't waited for an album in forever. People just put out too much music. I don't even get time to like a song. You know how many songs I probably like that I would love, but I never heard? Tory Lanez was like that. I was listening to Tory Lanez and I was like, it's crazy I waited till the shooting to happen for me to start liking his music. It's crazy, man. It is crazy. Oh, yeah. And also, TDE also has an extensive label that far passes K-Dot. One, you got SZA. SZA is one of the hottest female voices, one of the sexiest voices out here right now. Schoolboy Q still has a cult following. Absol, I don't know how really popping that young man is, but you still have a balance. You have something where, unlike ASAP, where when he says, because the last time we heard Kendrick on the radio was with SZA, right? I believe that's the last time we heard him. That was 2018. That's when Black Panther came out, 2018. So if I leave, I'm leaving a sound, I'm leaving a crew, I'm leaving an organization. There's something here for me to be worthwhile staying. There was nothing at ASAP. And even if he leaves ASAP, that's not like ASAP Rocky's not going to still work with him, and they can't make him change his name. You don't own, I don't know. I can't say this for sure, but they may or may not own the name. I don't believe they own the name ASAP Rocky. ASAP Ferg, I mean. So, I don't lose nothing by leaving, while TDE has a roster, but it's still very much dependent on K-Dot. I don't see SZA being somebody you can put a whole crew on. To me, she don't seem like the type of person I'll put a whole crew on. And also, the most important part about it, Top Dawg is still alive. So as long as Top's still alive, you're not missing or losing out on anybody. You have somebody to sit everything down and says, this is how we're going to do, this is how we're going to play. And the leader, the person who started it and is still in charge, can keep all moving members in alignment. If you look at Cash Money, it's funny, and I think about it, this is randomly shooting from the hip here. Cash Money got rid of UNLV once they got the Hot Boys, right? They didn't keep UNLV. They didn't make UNLV a part of the budget. That fell to the wayside. They said this Hot Boy stuff is working. This is what we're going to focus on. When Rocky and ASAP Yams and ASAP 12 and ASAP Ferg worked off, they should have got rid of the old members. Sometimes that's just what it takes. That's what it takes for a successful label. Sometimes you got to know when they say there's an 80-20 rule. You know, that 80%, that 20% of anything produces 80% of another result. So 20% of the artists you sign are gonna make up 80% of your sales. When you find your 20%, focus on that 20%. The other 80% that's gonna give you the other 20%, even among them, it's gonna be a top 20%. Even among the 20% that's only the 80% of them that's gonna render 20% of your sales, that's still gonna be a small group that's responsible for a large portion. That's just how it goes, you know? That's just how it goes. So it takes a leader to make leader decisions and to keep everybody together. And another person, which we spent a lot of time on this one, but YBN Cordae leaving YBN. I don't know what YBN stands for. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't do any work. I didn't find that out. I didn't think about that until I started recording. I was like, man, I never found out what YBN stands for. Leave a comment in the comment section if you know what YBN stands for. But when we're looking at YBN Cordae leaving YBN, that makes for such an interesting dynamic because that's far past if ASAP sits in the middle, right? K-Dot is a person who feels content where he's at, apparently is happy where he's at. ASAP Ferg seems to be playing a fence right now. We don't know where he'll land. YBN Cordae is all the way on the other side of the spectrum. He knows he's out of here. He's not trying to be without YBN. He says that, Cordae says that Normeyer, whatever his name is, and Almighty J are just on a whole nother page, and they want something different out of their career. He basically saying the music y'all making, and this goes back to the quote that I said, dudes get too caught up in fashion and women, and I'm the only one still known for the music. The reason that reminds me of that reminds me of YBN Cordae is because YBN Cordae is known for having like being the lyricist of lyricists, the new guy, the person that there is to listen to, the person that there is to connect with, right? That he could be the new voice. He could be the new J. Cole of his era. It's crazy that we're coming into a time where they're comparing the people to folks we remember coming up. You know, the new legends, right? These guys were supposed to have been submitting their name, and it always still feels like they got some more in their tank while these new kids is coming in. But, YBN Cordae is looking to make his stamp in the game, and he don't look like he's slowing down, and I ain't mad at him. Keep cooking, keep working. But, this goes back to when you think YBN Almighty J, I can only think back of two scenarios that's significant to YBN Almighty J. Him getting jumped outside of Chicago. I don't know if it was Chicago or just the Bronx. This was the Bronx, and Dirk and Reese was making fun of him. But I believe this was the Bronx. And they beat him up and took his chain. That's one thing I knew about him, and he dated Black China at 18 years old. Listen, I know that's a stupid decision, but at 18, you got to think about who was a popping like porn star or whatever imagine Superhead wanted to date you at 18. Huh? You would have did it. You would have did it too. I ain't mad at the young man. I'm just saying, Cordae may be looking like, dog, y'all taking everything else. YBN didn't have a structure. They met online. They was online gamers. It was supposed to be like a gamer tag thing that they do. And they must have branded themselves very well. They started rapping on their Xbox parties, and guess what? They started linking up. They started working together. One of them ended up making a hit record called Rubbing Off the Paint. And this was good, and Cordae came in, and he was like just the KD. He was like KD going to Golden State. It became his team. It became his league. And now it seems like, and also Naaman I believe that's what his name is. I'm going to call him Naaman. Y'all probably killing me in the comment section. But Naaman seems to be going through some business disputes through public eye. None of this is a good look, man. None of that is a good look. Whether you're looking at ASAP getting caught up with fashion or ASAP or Almighty J getting caught up with these women. When you're the prize artist in a stable, sometimes you have to make the best decision for yourself. When you fall in that 20% that make 80% of a product, you're going to feel like either the crew needs to follow your lead or you need to go on your own. In the words of ASAP Ferg, to paraphrase him, how you going to kick the leader of ASAP Mob out? You know, just a little food for thought, something for you to think on. That's just something I want you to think about. I don't got the answers. I don't know how you gonna kick a leader of a crew out, but they trying to do it. we're gonna get to another section. So another thing I wanted to talk on was, of course, with Scarface. Now, Scarface is in need of a kidney. He needs a kidney transplant, and this brought me to the question of death around the corner. How many legends will 2020 take? Man, how many more people we gotta lose? So we gotta take it down in Houston. First, we gotta talk Bushwick Bill. Bushwick Bill passed away because I want to just give you an idea of what all has encompassed Scarface so far in his life. Not in his life, in the recent year. So his label mate, his group member, not just a label mate, his group member, Bushwick Bill, he was the little person that was in the Ghetto Boys. He had a dope flow. He was super cool. He passed away. He had been having complications, though. He had been having complications. And I remember what kind of made all of that, made his passing so much of a spectacle, is that Willie D, who holds no punches and is just all the way out there. He says what he wants. He does what he wants. It's his world and we just living in it. Willie D said that, what did old Willie D say? Willie D said he ain't showing up to his funeral. Him and Bushwick, he ain't like Bushwick Bill. Him and Bushwick Bill wasn't cool. Bushwick Bill was a wild boy, man. He was a wild dude, and Willie D was also crazy. But I believe Scarface showed up, and he just didn't go to his funeral. He just did not go to his funeral. And it's crazy for somebody to be your group member, and you like, imagine Takeoff not going to Offset's funeral. You like, this is crazy, man. I thought y'all was cool. Willie D ended up having a pretty solid career. Willie D had a pretty solid solo career too, but it didn't rival what Ghetto Boys was. None of them. Not even Scarface. I will argue you down about that. Not even Scarface had a better solo career than what the Ghetto Boys had together. But anyway, Scarface took to social media. That was also interesting that he took to social media to do this. I don't know what all resources he has to his disposal right now. For him to go into social media and put it out that he needs a kidney, I don't really know, because there should be a directory of people you go, because he's B positive. If you happen to be blood type positive and you possibly want to donate a kidney, you can give it to Scarface, because Scarface is in need of it, and apparently he doesn't know where to find a B plus kidney, a B positive blood type, kidney, and he's asking anybody for help. But don't just worry about that. So you probably thinking to yourself, well, what's in it for me? T.I. is offering cash assistance to any volunteer. He didn't say how much, but I'm imagining he throwing them bands out. He finna throw them bandies out there, because he's super close to Scarface. I mean, super close. He even said on a record one time Scarface was his father. Like, that's just how much in high regard he holds this man. And, T.I.'s in everybody's business these days. T.I.'s in everybody's business. And this isn't the first time that we've had this scare with Scarface. Scarface had a scare earlier this year when it came to COVID-19. We thought we was going to lose him to COVID-19. That's the part that's even more crazier. So it's just been a lot with him, man. He up there in age. He done lost weight. He done got healthy. And it's just a difficult time. That's scary. You got this COVID going on, and you got to get a transplant. So, prayers up to the homie Scarface, man. Also, to Kurt Cobain, another Houston artist. He just lost his son. He was saying in the message, it was a real heartfelt message where he was talking about his son doesn't have to hurt anymore. So, man, that's tough, bro. That's tough. I don't know when he passed away, how long it's been. I wouldn't imagine from the sound of the post, it didn't sound like he ran straight to, the Instagram to tell people about his woes and his problems, but he let it out, bro, and I felt for him. You're a father, you ready to show, this person everything that you never had, and it just wasn't time for it. Just wasn't time for it. Clearly in the picture, we seen him, his child, and a young lady in the picture. So clearly he had made a family dynamic for him. This is 2020, so you know how tough it is. Especially when you're a young player, you had a hit record. He made a song called Drinking My Cup about 5-6 years ago, maybe less. Pretty cool cat, man. Pretty cool cat. Prayers up for him and his family. And, life goes on, man. Life goes on, and no one said it would be fair. But I don't want to end on a bad note. I want to make sure that we ending on a positive. We focusing on a positive. We realizing that there's a lot. Even in a pandemic, true hustlers is gonna get it. True money makers is gonna take it. And Killer Mike is showing, man, y'all laughing to the bank. I'm at the bank laughing. Killer Mike just opened a digital bank. Give you some time to let that thing sit in, man. He owns his own bank. It is an online bank. So he's always been involved in politics and social media and social issues on and off the mic. He has a very political, strong political stance for Bernie Sanders. I would dare say, I'm going to say this. I'm going to jump out there and say this. Killer Mike got Bernie Sanders hot in the hood. He got Bernie Sanders hot in the hood. You hear me? I don't know where Killer Mike found him from. I don't know when. Maybe he was his accountant before. I don't know. But him and Bernie Sanders, he got Bernie Sanders hot in the hood. And he has a lot of credibility for the things that he believes and the things that he thinks. I think Bernie is a safe answer for people who don't want to make a hard choice between, whether that be Biden and Trump or Trump and Hillary. Nobody wants to be the person that made the bad decision, but guess what? You got to make some decision, dog. You got to do something. But anyway, we're not just talking about his political views, so that's why I say he not only clearly sees, so that's important to see that this man believes in the future of America and the way that everything unfolds. And now for him to take the most strongest position in the capitalistic society is the bank. And so for him to give that offering, a black-owned bank, to when the last time you went to a bank you felt like you could smoke one with the CEO? Huh? When the last time? And the bank's online, so it shows you that he's sticking to the times. He's not getting caught up in the past. He's not letting, the past getting away with what he got going on right now. He's staying with it. He's sticking at it. And that's really all you can do. And that's really all you can do. And here's the beauty of it. Here's the caveat of it all before we go. He already has tens of thousands of requests for an accounts. That just shows you his credibility, his pull, and his power. And it shows you how the ATL is a staple in black culture. Those brothers up there striving for stuff we not striving for, man. T.I. doing the real estate thing. Killer Mike opening up banks. These brothers is really trying to, they're really trying to take it to the next level. I mean, although you gotta give it to New York before anything, with Puff having a channel and Jay-Z having a streaming service. I was just talking to somebody like, that's player. That's player. You own a streaming service. You can't top that. You can't top that with just music. Like, there's no music that can top you being in charge of how your music and how the music gets distributed. You're one of the top 3 choices. What you got? Spotify, iTunes, and Tidal. That's it. At the top, it's just us. So one time for the hustlers, man, who getting money and making it do what it do. That's always important. But, man, like I always said, it's Dapper Don Dez. You tuned in. This has been the Dapper Don Podcast. Man, it's been great speaking to y'all. I do this every Monday, baby. Every Monday you can count on me to drop that hot jalapeno pepper for you. Like I said, follow me on Dapper Don, at Dapper Don_Dez on Instagram. Go to the YouTube page and subscribe at the YouTube page, Dapper Don Dez. Every subscription, this helps me bring more and more content to you guys and just keep y'all up and abreast, keeping you abreast of what's going on in this world. Everybody likes to be abreast of it. But until then, it's your boy Dapper Don Dez. I am out.